Good morning.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thankful Thursday. So first things first, we want to say thank you to each and every one of our drivers out there for all you do. I know we say that every single week, however.
But we mean it.
We mean it, and we can't say it enough. So we're going to continue to do that.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm Sheli.
I'm Christy.
Of course, we've got our producer over there.
Yep. Hello.
How are you, Dylan?
If I could get the camera view over here, I'd be great. But no, I'm actually really good.
The voice
We've been
behind
doing
the magic.
yes, a little bit of magic there, but I've been doing great. We got some interesting things going on in the studio right now. If any of you guys have been sticking around throughout the morning, you'd probably notice that we do have freight waves on our morning show now. So they've been. This is the first time that we've had them streaming throughout the day, so this has been a pretty interesting week trying to get everything together and get it all prepped for that. So I'm doing pretty good.
That's awesome.
Doing pretty well. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's been a kind of a crazy week, I think, for
I feel like a crazy few weeks.
few weeks.
Yes.
Yes. I feel like I can't catch my breath.
Yeah.
If
I
that-
know. Well, that's how I was, because spent the last week of July getting ready for vacation, and then spent a week of vacation, and then spent last week trying to catch up from being on that week of vacation, and I'm still playing catch up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, I think all the parts have been moving, and everything's just seemed off. Like different people have been out, and so
Well,
it
and it's
doesn't
the
just
end
feel
of the
like the
summer,
same. Yes.
and so everybody's trying to get those last minute summer plans before the kids go back to school, and then you've got school starting.
And trying to get back into school.
My kids started yesterday.
Yes, I know. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I did really well. I was a little bit better than I anticipated. I actually have twin boys who are 6 years old, almost 6 years old, and they started kindergarten yesterday, which is a huge deal.
It's crazy,
It's
right?
just crazy for me. I think they were totally ready, and it's not like they haven't been in daycare and things like that, but this was different.
Oh, it's totally different. And I'm on the flip side of that. Even though there's only a couple years difference between us, I'm on the opposite end. This was my first time in 16 years of not having a child start school. So I didn't have to do school supply shopping or although Riley did some clothes shopping and was like, feel free to reimburse me. I was like, no, I'm good. I will keep my money. But it was very weird. I feel like I'm missing out on something. We always went to breakfast on the first day of school. And so I was like, it's just over. But luckily, my niece and nephew are school age. So I was asking my brother, I was like, are y'all doing breakfast? If not, I might just go by myself. I was going to go with Kendra. I was like, I'm going to breakfast with somebody. But they did end up picking somewhere. And so we went. So at least that continued on. I know, but it's crazy. So yeah, you're in a whole new phase.
It is. It's a new phase for sure. And then obviously, Dylan, you've got the FreightWave stuff that's been building and now launched, which is so exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I am surprised that it hasn't gone wrong yet.
Hey, don't jinx it now.
I'm not going to jinx it. It probably will at some point, but it's been nice kind of seeing everything work out how it has. So I'm excited to see what's to come of that. And we got a lot of changes, good changes, I hope, I think, coming. So
It's
yeah,
like your
good
own little
stuff.
baby.
Yep, a little bit, except that I don't have to pay child support. So
Lucky
that's
you.
what's doing it.
Well, the reason we talk about all this stuff, and I don't know about you guys, but it takes a mental toll, I think, when you have a lot going on. I have some personal things that I'm working on, professional things that we're working on that, all require this mental energy. I feel like the drivers, they go through the same thing. They've got a lot going on. And I feel like of anybody, they would know how that is, where it's all mental. You're thinking about life and you're thinking about all these things that you've got going on, or your family, or, you've got to get an extra 100 miles today because whatever bill needs to be paid off, you have a 34 coming up and you got to make sure that you're maximizing those miles. I mean, there's a lot of mental energies that go into that.
And how do you give all of it 100%? right? Because that's what I think that's the pressure, and that's where it starts to build up, because you want to give 100 to everything, but you can't. So how do you figure out how to balance that?
I think one of the things that I do a lot, because I do have usually a million things going on at one time. I don't know if y'all figured this out if you've ever watched this show. I am type A. I always have a million things going on all at one time. It's all or nothing with me.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I like that. You know, that's how I function. It's all or nothing. But it does take a mental drain. And so for me personally, I have found, and it's taken a long time to figure out to ground myself periodically. And even to the point where, you know, sometimes if I don't necessarily need it, I still will do it just to kind of, so I don't get to that point.
So you don't burn out.
So you don't burn out. You know, it's easy to do, but it's also easy to try to recenter yourself regularly. What does that mean? Well, in order to kind of talk about what that means, you have to figure out what your particular symptoms are of overwhelm and burnout are. You know, we've talked about burnout a little bit before, but overwhelm is not necessarily burnout. It doesn't have to be that. Overwhelm could be, I've just got literally everything going on right now, and I'm having trouble organizing all of it in my brain, and it's using all of these energies. Well, you know, we've talked about this before, and Dylan, you're a really good resource for this particular topic, but how stress and anxiety and overwhelm and stuff affects your body physically. You know, for some people, for me, it's illness. I feel like my immunity just kind of tanks when I'm super stressed out, if I'm overwhelmed, and sometimes I don't even realize it. I don't feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
But my body is telling me I'm overwhelmed.
And that's a big cue, too, because I think that's a lot of it, is a lot of times we don't feel overwhelmed. Like, our personalities, we feel like, I got it, I can handle it, like, I'm good. But something's telling you, like, no. Because I think mine, you're saying illness, I think mine is, I think I just get really tired. But I'm always tired, so I don't realize the difference. Like, I feel like, oh no, I'm always tired. But after, if someone points it out or somebody says something, I'm like, oh, maybe it is a different tired. Like, you know.
There's times where I'll notice that I'm getting overwhelmed with everything once. I'll notice myself going, and I'm like, this is fine. I can juggle everything all the time. And then I'll get home one day and I'll be like, am I sick? Like, I feel warm. I don't know if this is normal. And then, like, the next day I'll wake up okay. But then by the end of the day, I kind of feel sick. And I'm like, I don't think I'm sick. I just think that my eyes are always strained on something. And so it causes that amount of stress. So we get a lot of overwhelming feelings. And especially now, it seems like everybody's just running around like crazy.
Yes.
But what can people do to alleviate some of that? Maybe take better care of their mental health while at work?
So there's a lot of things that you can do. And number one is, I say it a lot, you identify your strengths and weaknesses. You know, and if there's a particular area, specifically with work, if you know those weaknesses, you're able to, and I guess let me back up. If you are encountering a situation where you're having to tackle things and it's really utilizing those weaknesses, if you will, then just kind of, number one, being self-aware, always self-awareness. And if you need to ground yourself, it's putting yourself in a mental capacity where you can kind of do the checklist. And y'all know what I mean by that? Is, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to do. These are all the things that I need to get done. These are the problems that I have. These are the good things that I have. And it just kind of refocuses all your energies on what your reality is versus how you feel about your reality.
Yes. And I think we talk about lists a lot, but it does go back to a list. I mean, that's
Every
why
time.
from the beginning of time, there's make a pros and cons list. I mean, lists just help because I know that same thing. There's times where I just feel like I've got things going on in all different areas of my life, but if I will just sit down and and I have so many lists on my phone. Like I found it's almost like a yellow sticky note, but it has a checklist. And so I've got a to-do list, there's a grocery list, there's a vacation list, there's an everything. There's a Riley list. I mean, everyone has a list. And as it pops in my head, I'll put it on there. But even then, sometimes I still need to sit down and actually compare the list and put them all together. Because even if you have the list and you're throwing stuff on there, you still need to figure out what is top priority. What do I need to focus on first? And if you'll look at all of it, then I think that's when you start feeling better and you don't feel so overwhelmed because it's like, okay, I can breathe. I know, let me finish this and get it done and start checking those things off and actually finishing them because I'm bad about having 50 things going all at once, but nothing gets finished.
Yeah.
It's all like 75, 80% done, but not quite finished. So I do feel better those times where I can just finally say, okay, that's done. Even if it's the easiest thing, like, oh, I bought that can of green beans, but it's done. It's off the list. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Well,
and it starts to whittle
And
down.
you're also able to, especially if you get those feelings of overwhelm, reach out for help.
Yes.
You know, we can't say that enough. It's, you know, especially like for our drivers, if they're having a really tough time because they have all these things, write the list down, get with your spouse or get with your family member or get with your DM and say, look, I've got these things here. What can I check off? What can I schedule? What can I push to somebody else? You know, we forget that we have all of these resources. I am the worst offender, the worst about asking for help.
That's what I
I'm
was just
getting
gonna say,
better.
ask for help. I know.
I feel like I'm making some progress. I guess you would be able to tell if I am or not. But those are those moments where you say, okay, I can do this, this, and these are the things that I can't do, and this is what I can ask such and such to help me with.
Yes.
Even if they can't necessarily do it for me, for some reason, when you reach out and you, for lack of a better phrase, give those energies to somebody else and they share that burden, it makes your feelings of overwhelm
Yes.
kind of
Well, and I think that's
tailor
true
down.
with anything. Like anything you're dealing with, if you're feeling anxious about something or you got some, we all tend to keep it in and hold it in, which is the worst thing we can do because you feel like you're the only one. Like they won't understand, or I don't want to burden this person with it. It's not their problem. It's my problem. I need to figure it out. But the second you talk to somebody about it, and as you said, like not necessarily that they can fix it or they can take it on for you, but just having someone listen and hear you is such a sense of relief. And then it allows you to like refocus and be like, okay, maybe it's really not as bad as I thought. Like I made myself feel more anxious or overwhelmed. And now that I kind of put it out there, I feel
not
better.
quite as
I
bad.
can breathe. It's not as bad. And like you said, asking for help because I'm bad about that too. And you're getting better about asking.
Oh, that's good.
I
Okay.
keep saying to you, like, just ask. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. But then I realize I have to do
You
the
have to
same
do that
thing. So I'm trying to get
everybody needs
better about asking someone, hey, I've got to help with this. Can you help me with this?
Well, and then there's all these other things. You know, we've got this list of things that we can do, and they're relatively, it's kind of funny. When I read the list, I kind of laughed because I'm like, oh, yeah. And you find these articles, and they're like, just get a good night's sleep.
I would if I could.
Shut the fuck up. That's easy.
For
Yes.
sure, yeah, for sure. Let me just
do
get
that.
a good night's sleep.
I'm going to do that too. Why didn't I think of that sooner?
You know, set up a getaway.
Oh, okay. That's part
Take
of the
a vacation.
That's
Does
part of the
anybody want to
problem,
pay for
trying
that?
to
Is anybody
schedule.
going to pay for that getaway? Where is that happening?
Like, where do I find the time? That creates more feelings of being overwhelmed. Like, what? Now I got to plan something else?
You know, the other one was start your day with a cup of coffee. I have a whole day worth of coffee.
I have to. If I don't, then the day doesn't work. There's nothing. If I just get headaches all day, if not, then the
that
withdrawal
caffeine
catches
headache.
up. Who wins in that situation?
But, you know, there were a few good ones that I
Yes.
thought was helpful. And I've heard this before. Like, when you get that good night's sleep, what can help you get a good night's sleep? Well, sleeping in the cold. And that's really difficult for our drivers, especially in the
Yes.
summer. And I hate that. But if they're able to take those breaks when they're at home and they can sleep a little bit colder than normal or have a fan. For whatever reason, a fan works for me every single time, usually. But I have the ginormous industrial size fan, not just the ceiling fan, because that's
Yes.
on too, but like the sonic whatever. And it is so loud. But I love it. So it's
Yes.
probably a combination of both the air and that
And the
sound.
noise. Yes, because the second that noise goes away, you're awake.
Duh,
It's like,
yeah.
what just
I
happened?
can't
Like-
sleep without the fan sound
So this
on.
was, we always, and I think I've talked about it before, we sleep with there's fans everywhere, but we usually have the ceiling fan, and I have a fan, and David has a fan. Well, now for some reason there's 2 fans on David's side, and he keeps turning them off, but he's not there at nighttime, so I turn them on. Well, the other night, I just could not get comfortable, and it was so hot, and I mean the air's on like 67. He bought another fan. It's the cool air one or something. I don't know. You put water in the top, and it's supposed to be even colder. So I
Oh.
turn around, and before I know it, the ceiling fan's on. Both of the fans on David's side are on, and there was 2 fans on my side, just for me. There was nobody else in the bed, but there was 5 fans on.
Hey,
Whatever it takes.
yes. And I think a lot of people, when I'm stressed out, it does cause me to not be able to sleep, which only compounds the
brain's not
issue.
shutting down.
Your brain's not shutting down. Sometimes, honestly, it sounds crazy, but me laying in bed, tossing and turning where I can't sleep is actually worse than if I were just to get out of bed and just
Just
get
do
up.
the things that your brain's thinking.
Yeah,
about
just
doing.
get out of bed, write it down. If that's not it, just have a cup of coffee, start my day at 2 a.m. Unfortunately, you're going to have those times.
Yes.
So there's just a lot of things that, you're going to encounter those and you just tackle them when you can. But there's also stuff that you can do as you go that can help minimize the feelings of overwhelm, like before you get to that point, before you get to that anxiety,
Yes.
as you go. So a lot of these things, while we make fun of it, because it really doesn't help you in the overwhelmed side, but it does help your mental health overall and to combat those feelings before they start,
Yes.
The other one was work your strengths. Anything that builds your self-confidence on your day-to-day. This sounds crazy. When I'm stressed out or when I'm struggling with something, like yesterday, I probably had the most productive day I've ever had because I was trying to distract myself from feeling like my
doing the
kids
things
are
you knew
too
you could.
old. But it was just like, I was just trying to work through those things. And for me, that's a strength, I guess, a weakness, whatever. Like, I just head down and work.
Yes.
And so that's what I use. When my husband deployed, when he was in the military, I went to work the same day he deployed. I was an absolute mess for like an hour, and then I went to work. But
'Cause you
it
just
was
needed
how
the distraction.
it's how I dealt with how it was helped me overall to deal with those things. And
Yes.
it doesn't always work for some people. Some people shut down. My kid, when we went to meet the teacher, he used the word nervous.
I remember that.
What 5-year-old knows?
Oh my gosh.
Or almost
Yes.
6-year-old knows the word nervous. But then I remember he's my kid, and so he's probably gonna have anxiety just like me. But he completely shut down, and it was just like, oh my gosh, how do you combat that? You
Yes.
just let them work through those feelings, and then you try to make them as comfortable as you possibly can. And the same goes for some people when they encounter those issues. Sometimes you have to work through them.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do, but like you said, it is easier if you can see it before the problem becomes too big. I mean, I feel like it goes back to a lot of things we've talked about before, kind of like with your house being a mess. If you just pick up a little bit, do the little bit of work every day instead of waiting long term, or losing weight.
Yeah.
Do the little tricks. Okay, swap out this meal for a salad, or eat a fruit instead of grabbing those chips on this day. Instead of waiting to all of a sudden one day you're, oh, I've gained 200 pounds. Now how do I fix it? Like the problems become so big when you could have taken some little steps that would have helped along the way.
And I like the comparison or using the cleaning of a house, because I think you have to do that with yourself sometimes. You have to clean your mental house a lot. And
That's good.
enjoyed the, I guess, the advice that they had on this article about writing things out. I've never been, I've always kind of enjoyed writing, but not for myself, just for like general, like writing stories or whatever. So I came across this thing, which is actually a songwriting tool, but it has helped me to process what I'm feeling a bit more and maybe get true feelings and then read it and then be like, okay, this is how I was feeling then. Let's move on because now I understand it. But basically, you would take whatever situation you're in. So let's say, for example, I'm stressed out because my ice machine doesn't work. So I would write down as if I'm talking to a friend about how my ice machine is broken. And then I would write down how I would talk to a therapist about my ice machine being broken, so maybe how I feel about it, why it's making me feel that way. And then I would write to myself as if nobody else would ever read it about why my ice machine is broken. And then you kind of look through those three, see what overlaps, and maybe see what doesn't overlap and what is more superficial than other things and what's really bothering you throughout those three. And that has helped me dissect feelings a lot more, or just situations as a whole.
That is really
What
good
a
because
great piece of advice.
I mean, it's true, right? More than likely, what you're going to write to yourself is going to be quite a bit different than what you're going to tell your friend, and maybe somewhere in the middle on what you would tell your therapist.
Yep.
And that is hard because then, I think then you struggle with that part of what you're saying to yourself is how you really feel. And again, going back to being okay with that and being okay to be able to say that to somebody.
Right.
So being able to figure out, because that will cause a lot of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. If you're struggling with something that you know how you feel, but you just can't figure out how to say it to someone because of how it might make them feel or with the situation it might cause. Yeah, so that's really good.
I like that. I'm going to have to look that up.
We're going to be doing a lot of writing.
It helps with writing songs too. That's the whole process.
It does.
There's a couple of other things that were really good that just help in general in your day-to-day. Show some love to someone in your life. I mean, that could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a furry pet, what I call the fur babies.
Yes.
Especially if you're out on the road, you can have a pet in your truck.
Provided you have a pet
provided you have a pet permit, yep.
And pay that deposit.
This one I really like, and this one's something that I use not as much as I would like to, but get off the grid. Disconnect.
Yes.
You get off your phone, turn it off. How many times do we turn that phone off? Never. Because that's our lifeline, right? Especially for our drivers.
When there's a system update and it forces me to, like on the third time, you can't turn it off anymore. It's like, no, we're doing it. Then it's like, oh crap, no one can get a hold of me for 15 minutes. Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I think it'll be fine.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Be a tourist in your own town. So I thought this was really cool because this is something that our drivers can absolutely use. You're a tourist in all these different places. However, you're working. So, having that mindset of exploring it in a way that would be, you would see things and places a little different would be helpful for mindfulness. Staying in the present, there's a quote from Thoreau, "What lies before us and what lies behind us are small matters compared to what lies within us. And when you bring what is within out into the world, miracles happen." I love that one. The other part is, we've talked about this has to do with health for yourself and for your mental health. prepping your lunch, picking out clothes, things like that help organize yourself actually do help you feel less overwhelmed, because if you've got the little stuff taken care of.
Well, then you're not, that way in case you accidentally oversleep or something happens and it delays you, then you're not feeling so rushed, because if those things are, you can grab your clothes because they're already there, and your lunch is already packed in the fridge, you just have to grab it, instead of, it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, but if you're having to dig through the refrigerator, where did I put this, where did I put that, now I've got, then, it changes everything. And it also helps you stay on a path. Like, if you're trying to eat better, it's much easier if you've prepared your food and you can just grab it versus having to search for it, because then it just throws your day off. And then you're like, I might as well just get that cheeseburger. It's easier to eat that. And then you've, kind of derailed something else. In addition that's going to add more anxiety and more feelings of overwhelming.
And you've talked about this before. Take 30 minutes to go for a walk in nature. Wherever you're at, you can find a place. Every single person here can do that.
Just make sure you're hydrated if you're doing it here in Texas, please.
For sure.
It's hot out there.
Or places like Florida, I think are pretty warm.
Put some sunscreen on.
Sunscreen, all that good stuff. Yeah. And my favorite is just to smile.
I was going to say, I like the take time to laugh.
Mm-hmm. Those to me are so simple, but so easy to do, and they're so effective.
It does. And we've talked about it before. Even just putting a smile on your face when you're in the middle of something and you're feeling it, if you will stop and actually make yourself smile, it really will. It just changes something within you, and then it's like, okay.
That you've often heard this said, and I say it to people too. You laugh to keep from crying, I guess.
Yes.
But it's true. It helps you focus on the most important things, so that you don't get caught up in those emotions that are negative. And if you're able to laugh about a situation that's stressful, it helps just improve your overall health, physically as well as mentally. Every time a driver calls, even if I'm in the middle of something or I'm stressed out, I'm putting on a smile, because number one, that's what you do. But two, that helps me to focus in the moment and on what that driver needs, and or that person or whoever I'm talking to, because it refocuses from what, quote unquote, the stress I'm dealing with, so I don't accidentally transfer that to somebody else. And that will work in so many different avenues.
It changes it opens up your mind and changes what you're focused on
your
in
attitude.
That moment, because then you forget about that, put it to the side, leave it where it should be. And like you said, then you can focus on that driver and really hear what they're saying. And because if you're right, if you don't answer the phone with a smile, or people hear it, you may think that you're hiding it, but people can hear it. And if somebody's already frustrated and coming to you to vent or looking for answers, and you pick up and they already feel that, it's just going to derail the whole situation.
I think one of the best things that you can do is, we keep going back to grounding. What is kind of centers yourself and keeps you from feeling overwhelmed. And so I just wanted to share some of that. You are your best advocate mentally as well as physically. So keep that in mind. Reach out to others, and with that, we'll see you next week. Take care.